Hi, I'm Jen. I'm the kind of old autistic lady, and I want to welcome everyone back. I've decided to put the channel videos back up, and I'm going to, on a somewhat frequent basis, add some more videos. I first want to explain why I took a hiatus because I did put a post out there, but I didn't really get into it too much. There were really two things behind that decision. The first is that the whole RFK, let's put autistic people on a list and round them up thing really freaked me out. And now that we're more than a year into the Trump administration, I just woke up and said, you know what? The odds of me personally having some ramifications from this are probably pretty low because the government isn't really showing that they're very effective at doing much of anything right now. That's my political take on it. Okay, the second situation that happened is a little over a year ago. I started a job with an employer that I had worked with in the past for a different job. I completely changed careers, so I had a lot on my plate. And I also have to come to grips with the fact that they have a pretty conservative, I guess is how I'd put it. They have a conservative view on social media. So I took a hiatus for a while, decided to really think about what I wanted to do, and I'm back, essentially. With that said, I have a couple of updates. One of which is that I have started a little side business, and I'm going to put the link in the description of the video if you want to check that out. I'm not going to explain it too much on here because the primary purpose of this channel is to talk about autism and my experience of it and what I find out in research. I'm also a year farther into my whole late diagnosis journey, and I've had to learn a lot of things in the past. And one of the things that I've really gotten a lot more familiar with, just having a chance to settle into more or less, okay, I've had this job for a year. I have different video setup. I have different video tools. I don't know if I'm going to keep these ones, so bear with me the next few videos. You might see a lot of different stuff than you've seen in the past. All of that said, the topic of today's video, besides the welcome back, is another video I saw. The link I'll put in the description as well, because I want to give credit to the person who made that video. But I'm going to summarize it just because I don't feel like dealing with fair use. Essentially, the idea behind it is this woman is a, what's the right word? A vision therapist. And she talked about how it's not uncommon at all that people, when they're diagnosed as being autistic, have to go through some vision therapy. And I find this applicable to myself because I've actually been through vision therapy. My insurance didn't cover it. It was very expensive. And it was not as a child, which was the bent of the video that I'm talking about. For me, what happened was I woke up all of a sudden one day, about 10 years ago, and I was seeing double. And I went through and got the normal kind of medical checks to make sure there wasn't anything going on wrong with, something that's physical, like I didn't have a brain tumor or something. And it all came back normal. I also was not drinking very much at the time. I feel like that's a pretty important thing to mention. If you watch some of my other videos, I talk about my addiction journey with alcoholism, and I'm still sober, which I'm very grateful for. Anyway, I got to the point where I was seeing double. I had prisms put in my glasses to help, but I was still seeing double a lot. And so I went to vision therapy, and I think I did it for maybe a year. And the whole point of the vision therapy was to teach my brain the actual information that was coming into my eyes. And it was pretty cool. I learned a lot of things in vision therapy that I find really fascinating. And if you've watched some of my other videos, you'll know I also did physical therapy. When I got out of rehab from drinking, I did, it was physical therapy and it was for getting dizzy and faint. This is distinct from that. It was very different. But one of the big things was, for example, I was taught how to turn the vision off in each eye, like how to tell my brain how to do that so that my brain could work on putting the two pieces together. There were pieces where I had to look at things that were certain colors and only do it through certain patterns. And I had to do a bunch of stuff with like movement and what my eyes were doing in movement and different actions that my body was taking while my eyes were doing other things. It was really fascinating. I wish actually that I was a YouTuber at the time that it happened, because I would have been able to speak to it a little bit more eloquently and with more detail, because everything would have been fresh to me. But it's not. All of that's to say that I'm bringing it up because, a year ago, a little over a year ago, when I was still making videos, a lot of the topics I was talking about really were, how am I making sense of this late diagnosis? What were some signs that I was probably autistic that didn't get caught? And I think that this was a really strong indicator that I was autistic, because my brain started to process stuff in a way that literally it was more literal, because, your eyes take certain inputs from the environment, but your brain does a lot with it. So, for example, a pretty common thing that I think you may have heard talk about is that you can see your nose all the time. If you close your eye, you can see your nose. But when your two eyes are put together for binocular vision, your brain filters out your nose out of your vision for the vast majority of your day. At least that's how it happens with, I'd say, most people. Being autistic, that's a little harder for me. And if you've seen some of the other videos, you'll also know, I'm going to give this as a preface in case you're a new joinee to the channel. If this is your first foray, since I'm putting up new videos again, when I have a hard time thinking, or I have, I'm tired, or I have dealt with a lot in a day, or there's a lot of visual disturbance around me, you'll see it pretty frequently that on my videos, I tend to close my eyes, because sometimes I have to completely shut off the visual inputs in order to function. And so the whole thing about the vision therapy makes a ton of sense. And after I went through it, I didn't have to do it again, thank goodness, because it was very expensive. And the place that I worked through and took these sessions, they worked with me. They were really great. I have to give them kudos, although because it was a decade ago or more, I don't remember the name of the organization. Sorry. But if you have ever had to go through vision therapy and you're autistic, I'd love to hear your read your comments. Because I find it really fascinating. And I'd love to know if your vision therapy happened when you were a child. Did it happen when you were an adult? And was it proximate to when you were diagnosed, regardless of if you were diagnosed as a child, late diagnosis? And if you're self-diagnosed, have you ever been through vision therapy? What was your experience of it? I'd love to hear from you. I'm so happy to be back. Thank you for watching. Bye.